Welcome to Dr. M's Vodcast, a vodcast with a mission to connect continuous improvement professionals across the world.
Great. Siobhan, thanks a lot for being here as my guest, and namaste. It's something wonderful in India that is time neutral, right? So I do a little bit of intro as a standard operation procedure. Otherwise, we can link it up. And this time, I switched over to your favorite blue, Siobhan.
Love the blue, Dr. M.
So here we go. We're on episode 14, and that's to my sensei. And that's to you, two excellent books. I read some extracts from the Insider's Guide to Culture, and there's one thing that you humored me on, emotional intelligence. I forgot the quote. You talked something about taste and the value. It's all now nonsense. I don't know what he said, but I had that with me. So this is what we're going to talk about. And we are specifically going to talk about the chapter 2 of simplifying complexities. These are the 4 things that the chapter 2 covers: learning to see patterns that govern behavior, mapping key patterns, listening to identify views about what needs to change, seeing the true reality of the current situation. And this is the recording of last time, so let me play this for you.
I thought what we could do, Dr. M, was to have a conversation about patterns and what you think some of the problems are in terms of what people might be interested in or looking for in terms of seeing patterns and diagnosing what's really going on in an organization. You mentioned the Gemba and the work that people are doing. What do you see happening in the projects that you've been involved in your continuous improvement community? What are some of the issues that you think are facing practitioners in your space?
Fair enough. 40 years in Gemba work, and the major problem that I have is initially to understand what is the problem. Okay. If I don't understand what is the problem, what am I going to do? And the greatest problem has been to understand what is the problem faced by my client, my customer. Now, very often when I get stuck is that we get an aha feeling and we talk to people, and then we go to the Gemba and we find that what we really thought was the problem is not the problem. And then we play around with it. The greatest problem in problem solving or change management, this is to basically get the definition of the problem right.
Yes, well, it's a great conversation to have, and I think you touched on a couple of key issues there, Dr. M. The first being that we are often, as practitioners or consultants or internal advisors, we're called into a client or a manager who has a problem. That's why they're talking to us. But that problem is what we call the presenting problem. But that presenting problem rarely identifies the underlying issues. So as a consultant or as an interventionist trying to change that system, your first task is to really identify what is going on in this ecosystem. And in order to do that, you've got to understand patterns. Now, by patterns, I mean the hidden agreements between the parts and the roles that different parts of the ecosystem are taking up in order to keep that system stuck. Okay, and I'll give lots of examples of these patterns, as you mentioned, in the hive mind at work. The reason why it's difficult to do this work is we haven't been taught to see systemically. we haven't been taught to see how a system is operating. We've been taught to think in very linear terms, or sometimes in what I would call emotional intelligence terms. So we think in terms of relationships, but not in terms of relatedness between the parts. So it's a different way of seeing the world. It's a different lens on a problem. And it's one that we haven't been taught to take, which is why it is emerging as a skill set or as a capability, but it's not the norm. So we're brought in, we are often told what the problem is, and we are often given a hint about what the technical solution is to this problem. So it could be, for example, we've got a quality problem and a continuous improvement problem or an innovation problem, and this is what the solution is. And we are encouraged almost to go on that track and to keep on that track and to go towards that technical solution. And often we find when we get on that track and we progress that actually the solution isn't solving the problem. And we are still left with this recurring noise or the recurring problem, even though we've implemented the technical solution. So this is why in my book, The Hive Mind at Work, I want to offer people a different way, which is right at the start of your project. You start to look at what's really going on here. What are the systemic roles that are creating the problem? And what is the problem that we're actually trying to solve for? Is it as it's presented, or is there something else going on in this ecosystem? And what parts are potentially contributing to that problem? So that is a skill set. That is a different way of thinking. It's a different way of looking at ecosystems with that systemic lens, and it is a different type of intelligence. It really is group intelligence, which can allow you to understand complex dynamic ecosystems and to diagnose patterns. And the other thing, Dr. M, is that each situation is unique. And you might think, oh yeah, I've got a formula, but that isn't how patterns operate. It's not a formulaic response. It's not a quality system. It really will be, every ecosystem is unique, and you've got to examine that ecosystem and understand how is it uniquely functioning, and how is that way of functioning bringing about some of the issues that potentially we are seeing here. So that's does that connect with your experience, Dr. A?
As a prelude, it does. I got multiple bulbs in my head. And to the audience who are listening to Siobhan, on behalf of Siobhan, I'm requesting you all to shoot questions to us, because what Siobhan told me right now, or told us right now, is that we as continuous improvement professional, change management, I won't say expertise management professional, need to have or develop another critical attribute or skill to see patterns. So you can shoot questions to Siobhan when she comes on the event and ask her how to develop the skills. And I'm sure I'll talk to Siobhan and say, Siobhan, come over and be a part of my study group and help us to have a detailed training to develop this particular skill. Say yes, Siobhan.
Let's talk about it some more.
So the deal is now between the audience who participate in this launch. The best I know is 8th May. Shoot the question as to what is the critical attribute that is required within us that we need to train ourselves, be aware of it, develop it, and we'll ask a lot of questions to Siobhan as to she has identified 13 patterns. We have to probably have 31, 32, 33, I don't know how many number of patterns, but how do you get the skill? Please keep asking Siobhan till she tells, okay, stop asking, I'll come and train you, right? Okay. Siobhan, have a good day, and I'm going to put it across. And a lot of the basic thing is that if you cannot see, what are you going to change? So
yes.
How do I get the lenses, etc., to see the patterns?
Yes, and perhaps Dr. M, as we're talking in our next session, maybe what we do is we look at a problem. I give people a case study and we start to see potentially the pattern in the case study and the roles, the systemic roles that people are playing within that particular example. So rather than talking in theory, maybe we can discuss and I can maybe make a case study for people to consider if that would be
Excellent,
helpful.
excellent, excellent. And again, on behalf of Siobhan, I'm saying that if you have a similar problem in your organization, shoot it to her somewhere during the course of the 16 minutes interaction that you're going to have with her, and let's see what hint she will give it to us. Take the maximum advantage of 16 minutes with Siobhan on Dr. M's launch. Thank you very much, Siobhan. And have a good day, have a good week. And I'm going to stop recording. God bless. And stay blessed. Over to you, Sean.
Yes, well, I would value a conversation amongst people about what you heard, what landed in that segment, what are you wondering, what's emerging for you, what are you thinking about when you've been listening to that introduction, and feel free to join in, Dr. M, as well. So just having a conversation rather than more me just talking at people. What are you wondering as you listen to that? Colleen has her hand up.
Yes.
So, Siobhan, my question is, with your lens framework for leaders, look ahead, experiment, nudge, strengthen, how do you coach that? As I found that to be particularly difficult, is for them to embrace the spirit of experimentation.
Yes, that's a great question. So to really affect change in complex adaptive ecosystems, what I recommend in the book, The Hive Mind at Work, as Colleen just said, is embarking on a 4-stage process, beginning with really looking beyond the obvious, seeing what's really going on. The second stage is experimenting. And how do you encourage people to do the experimenting? The third stage is nudging, and the fourth stage is to strengthen the emerging change. So how do you encourage people to go on the path of experimenting? I think this comes back to the mindset that people are often in organizations, is that they see organizations as machines, as clock-like mechanisms that you pull a lever, or you basically are working with a machine. Therefore, why would you experiment? Well, you just press the button, pull the lever, give the orders, command the machine, and the machine goes in the direction you want it in. And that is part of the problem, Colleen, is that people have a machine metaphor in their minds. So when you say experiment to them, they're thinking, why would I experiment? I am the leader. I sit on the top of the hierarchy. I give the commands. The commands go down the hierarchy in the chain of command, and it will happen because I gave the order. They are not thinking that the organization is a complex ecosystem that has unintended consequences and that you might need to experiment. So one of the things I think we need to do is to examine and challenge the perceptions that managers and leaders might have of their organizations. That's where I might begin. What do others think? What do you think, Colleen?
I think one of the most meaningful things that leaders can do is actually be involved in these Kaizen or continuous improvement events to see that experimentation close up. I think that's one of the most powerful things that any leader can do.
I love that. Yeah. So if they do embark on that journey to get involved in those experimentations and see what emerges, that is such a great idea. It's getting them to embark on it in the first place, I think, is often the challenge. But once they do, then it can be powerful.
Yep.
Dr. M, I can see you starting to think about something you want to say.
Yeah, sure. The whole thing is you are if I go back to my uncle Stephen Covey, he's not my uncle anyway. Stephen Covey, you are getting into the area of concern. You're straight away attacking on the leader, asking him to understand. Where is your circle of influence where you can influence? The experimentation has to come from you as a change leader. And it's not that you're going to change the entire enterprise. You show something in a particular place that attracts the leader and says, how did you do that? And then you talk to him or something to that effect. But my whole issue is that I'm still stuck on chapter 2. Okay, I have not even come to the 4-step because I don't know what's the problem. I am requesting is very simple. I go into an organization, how do I see patterns? Siobhan, you're so talented that you can sketch and show all the diagrams. I can't even draw a straight line straight. So how do I see a pattern? Now, if you give us a case study where you went in with your brilliance and you could see pattern, I can't see a pattern. Rachar Nazar is much better. Or I'll call you doctor.
Rashad, it will be good enough.
Yeah, doc, look,
Yeah.
when you go inside, if you're not even gone through it, there are certain patterns. Now,
Yeah.
I can't see, she's very good at seeing patterns. She can draw patterns. And every pattern that I look into is a 30 plus. Whenever I look at a situation, I find that it is combination of patterns. So that's the way I'm requesting, Siobhan, that let's start from alpha. How do I get to an organization and start seeing?
Yes, it is a journey. Okay, so you're not necessarily, it's like when you start to ride a bike. You know, the first time you get on a bike, you might fall off it. This is a journey I have been on over 2 decades, and it's like a muscle. Every day I'm strengthening that muscle, and every day I'm getting better. At the beginning, I did not know what a pattern was. I just thought it was somebody repeating the same behavior. That is one definition of a pattern, but it is not what we mean by pattern. So that would be the first thing I would say is it's going to take practice. Okay. And if you want, I can give you a little case study that we can practice now. Yeah. If people are interested, are other people also interested, are having difficulty? Can other people relate to Dr. M having some difficulty identifying patterns? Yeah, can you?
What I'd like to share, or my case study and request, maybe.
Yes.
Just a quick introduction, or to put a context from which background I'm coming from.
Sure.
So my mission is to design learning and knowledge management system that help people unlock their tacit knowledge. And that tacit knowledge, I scale it at enterprise level. So how we can transfer individual tacit knowledge, those knowledge gained by experience, by practice, and how we can scale them to be enterprise-wide, so we can reuse them in situations where we face similar and related problems. So this is my mission. For that, I used to work at General Electric for 11 years. I have led the GE Vernova business, 61,000 employees, 40,000 engineers. And we have identified, I can sense the difference between pattern and behavior. I come from engineering background, and for us, design patterns is a known concept when designing systems and how we interact with systems. So to aggregate different steps or common and repeated actions to put them as a signature flow where we can transpose and transfer those flows to other situations. So to be straightforward to my question, and this is what I'm currently facing. I am involving AI. AI is a buzzword right now. Everything is shortening or summarizing AI to ChatGPT question answering system. The way I perceive AI as an active participant. So I don't perceive AI as a tool, as a question answering system. I perceive it as an active participant, as an extension to our human capabilities, our human skills and knowledge. So how we can involve AI in our learning and knowledge sharing processes. The problem is I designed the AI-based system, so AI is a participant in the learning process. And the issue that I faced is the trust given to the AI participation. How I can trust non-human expert, because if we evaluate the technical knowledge of AI, it can proceed and it can really it can surpass the average Joe and the average Jane in terms of technical knowledge. But where AI lacks is the trust issue. And when I asked an expert, an actual senior expert, to answer AI questions, to do some kind of knowledge elicitation or knowledge extraction, to capture all the insights, he refused to answer questions coming from AI agent or any AI-based system, because there's no human connection. So this is where I'd like and where I'm seeking help. If you have identified patterns where we require human-machine interaction and now human AI collaboration to augment our skills and to augment our capacities and capabilities for learning, knowledge acquisition, and knowledge sharing.
Okay, that's a good case study. So let's play around with that. Okay, let's together collectively start to examine the problem. Okay, so Rashad, is that how you
Yes, correct.
pronounce Rashad?
Yes.
Okay, so
Yes.
Rashad is our client. Okay, and we are systemic consultants. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of us. Our job is to help Rashad with this problem. Okay,
Great.
so we are allowed to ask him questions, and we must give a hypothesis about why we are asking the question. Okay. Oh, welcome, Pratik. Yeah, welcome. We are just getting into a case study. Rashad has just presented a case study, so we are going to try and help him to solve the problem using a systemic lens. And his problem is that basically he's trying to leverage AI to create more knowledge across the whole organization. Which organization is it, Rashad?
Previously I used to work at GE, but now I transitioned to my own company, 3R. It's called the 3R.
3R.
So this is what I'm facing at my customer projects.
Okay, so as customers, when they're trying to leverage knowledge across the whole organization, they are faced with knowledge experts who do not trust AI, who do not want to interact with AI. So our challenge is to help Rashad to understand this problem using a systemic lens, not just a technical lens. And we have tools. We are going to ask him questions, and we are going to give hypotheses about what we think is going on in the system. So back to your point, Dr. M, this is how you start to learn how to take baby steps in a systemic way. So please go ahead, ask questions and give your hypotheses, because now you are trying to gather information about what's really going on in the system. So over to the consultants to ask some questions of Rashad and try to figure out and help him with this systemic challenge.
I see, Colleen, you want to ask something?
Do you have Pratik?
Rashad,
Yes, Colleen.
question for you is, have you helped through storytelling to show the benefit of AI so that leadership can begin to see the benefit a little bit more clearly? I found storytelling is very helpful.
Yes, great point.
Your hypothesis.
Mhm.
So it's a question and a hypothesis. Now, I think Colleen wasn't really asking a question there. She was sort of sneakily giving her advice. Okay. So it's a little sneaky little advice. We are really asking questions to understand, Colleen. Everybody does it. But remember, when you're in this stage one of your most important tools is your ability to ask questions. Now, what tools have you tried to use in order to help these people to build trust with AI? And my hypothesis is that, you may want to explore storytelling more. So that's a great question, Colleen. Remember, the more powerful the question, the more you will reveal about what's going on in the system. So, Rashad, what tools have you used to help people?
Yeah. So I want to differentiate between AI versus non-AI approach. When there's no AI, things goes building rapport with those experts, doing one-to-one interview, using semi-directed questions, semi-open questions, having this face-to-face or virtual interactions. That works great. But when we try to replace the interviewer with the AI agent or AI to ask questions, it can works for 5 minutes, like answering a couple of questions. But when the conversation extends to 30 minutes, 40 minutes, then the engagement became lower. And there's difference between showing a demo, what AI can do in 2 minutes, 3 minutes, or showing some kind of features is one thing. But when actually working with AI and implementing and having a real case study, that's a different story. The engagement is not the same level and the connection is not the same. So to refine further the problem is how we can make the interaction with AI lasts for over 15 minutes. No worries with 5 minutes, but how we can make it to extend that engagement over 15 minutes.
If I have to evolve a hypothesis on this, is the generation that we are talking to as leaders, let me rephrase it, something that is not yet known, you don't trust.
Yes. So, Dr. M, you ask a question and you give a hypothesis. So remember, you're trying to ask a question of Rashad, not jump to conclusions, but what is the question that is going to reveal more about what is going on in this system? And what is your hypothesis about that? So it's not a statement, it's a question and a hypothesis.
Pratik, this side. Yeah. So my question is, the clients which you are going to, are they from the same industry?
They are in different industries.
So my hypothesis was the clients may be, the practices for each customer of having the tacit knowledge may be different, the industry practices. So that is my hypothesis.
Okay, thank you. Question, hypothesis. So,
I'm going to
well,
sorry, Siobhan, I'm going to restate what I said, Doc.
yeah,
What I said is at a very, very macro level, people tend to suspect what is not known to them and new to them. They're not familiar with that. That's the hypothesis I'm working with. And the challenge is, if they don't know, how do I make them know? I think I'm transgressing a little, but once they know that it is going to be helpful for them, they probably might open up. And that's probably where the storytelling comes, what Colleen has suggested. But the whole thing is a basic level that I see it, that if I don't know something, it's a suspect for me, I don't trust. So how do I get the trust factor involved? I don't know whether it's a question or a hypothesis. Siobhan, you're the best.
so your question to Rashad is, remember our role here is to help Rashad to understand what's going on in this system. So Rashad, have you got a client in mind? Can you think about a particular company that you're trying to help right now?
Yes, in the food and beverage industry.
Okay, food and beverage. And who are the people who you're targeting? Who are these managers?
They are the research and development function,
R&D function. Okay.
Yes. And there are 3,000 scientists. They are senior scientists.
And what are you seeing them doing or not doing at the moment?
Not doing in respect to the AI extraction or the knowledge extraction.
In respect to the knowledge extraction, what are they doing or not doing?
Yes, so they engage in discussions that involves their colleagues. So in this type of conversations, they answer questions. They answer their colleagues' questions. But when a question is coming from an AI, they don't answer it.
Right, okay.
It's surprising. Sorry, Siobhan, it's surprising. You are dealing with scientists who are developing new products. And then these are the people who are introducing new products. And imagine those scientists expecting the new product, and you're treating AI as a new product.
Yes.
Well, they should be more tolerant. But this is a human psychology.
So let me broaden and build. I'm sort of, trying to broaden and build here. So for others listening, how do you, what do you do when you've got a problem like this? Here is a technical problem. We know AI can help them. 3,000 of these people are not really understanding this benefit, or not really coming on this change journey. So let's broaden and build. What else is going on in this ecosystem? Can you tell me about the executive team and what is their view in relation to the AI opportunity?
Well, for them, AI is still vague in terms of use cases, and they don't even know if there's a return on investment. But why they involved AI? Because 20% of those senior population are going to retirement, and they are quitting, or they are being laid off. So the problem that we are trying to solve, how we can capture their their experiences before they leave the company. And we can't do it one by one. There's the scaling challenge. We can't, so 20% out of the 3,000, maybe 600. So we can't interview 600 person at a time. So why we introduced AI? To have the scaling, to solve the scaling issue, and to run a parallel.
Yeah. So what's beginning to emerge here, and this is sort of a hypothesis now I'm starting to work with, is that there is a pattern emerging, and we can continue to build on this pattern. But can you see it there? You can't, maybe not. So basically, I've drawn here that there is this pattern called the head in the sand pattern, where we've got 3,000 R&D people in this function who are in role of resistors. When they hear AI, they just go, nah, don't want to interact with that thing, don't want to have anything to do with it. And we have an executive team who are in role of vague ones. They're just vague. Some of them are starting to think about retirement. They've tuned out. They've tuned out and they're the vague ones. Pretty vague, don't know what the benefits are. And this pattern or agreement between these parts is we do not leverage AI to its full benefit. That is the agreement between the parts in this head in the sand. We just put our head in the sand. And meanwhile, it's going down and down, wasting time, losing time. So I'm starting to develop this hypothesis about what's going on, this co-created pattern between the scientists, the R&D people here, and the executive team, who are the vague ones. And this agreement that we are not leveraging AI to its full potential. We've agreed that. The executive team are not forcing them. They're just vaguing out. And the R&D people can be in role of resistors with no consequences. Now, I've done that very quickly, just based on some questions. But you can see the questions that I'm asking, Rashad, are different questions.
Yes.
Can you hear Rashad going, yes, yes. She's getting to it. She's getting closer. I can start to see where I need to intervene. So can somebody, Rashad, response, others chip in? What are you noticing? Does this resonate, Rashad?
Yeah, definitely. And so,
Rashad,
yes, go ahead, please.
so I think often there's also an element of I'm the smartest in the room. There's a control component as well, often with engineers, particularly in design. But there's some arrogance there at times, and that control over the knowledge is their power. Just a thought.
Yes, so I love that, because where Colleen is going is to start unpacking this role of resistor. Why are these people sitting in role of resistor? What is the immunity to change that they are holding on to? What is the deeply held assumption, which we don't know, we can start to play with? Because if their assumption is I'm the smartest guy in the room, then there's one set of interventions. But if their assumption is this could be dangerous for my career, it could be dangerous, this could blow up for me, it could blow up for the whole company, this is an untested thing, it might cost me my job, and it could cost the company some of its IP, so I'm not going to go there. So the next step in this intervention is potentially begin to unpack a little bit more about why they're sitting in role of resistor and why the executive team continue to take up the role of the vagued out, tuned out, vague ones. So you can start to, it's a really good intro, Colleen, into exploring the role that they're taking up in more detail. What do you think, Rashad?
Oh, yes. So I have my own assumptions because those are leaving soon. And there's a question of what in it for me, WIIN.
Yes.
So why I should share or transfer my knowledge if I'm leaving the company.
Yes.
I'm not getting any promotion out of it. Personally, at personal level, it's too late to transfer knowledge at departure. It should be done way earlier, but that's too many factors involved in. So yeah, now the question, I think this problem statement is reformulated to how to keep interested and motivated people departing or experts departing from the company to transfer their knowledge.
Yes. So in this, you need to break this pattern of we're not fully leveraging AI, and potentially one of the ways to break it is to start exploring with this group or a subgroup here about what's really going on. What role are they in? What is the fear that's blocking them? How could they step into a different role? Even with a subsystem of the R&D people who might be prepared to go on an experimental journey. So you don't need all 3,000 of them, but you just need to, start to experiment and break this pattern that is essentially keeping the organization stuck. So that is an example, a very quick example of mapping the system. And there probably are other parts that are taking up other roles as well, but we're just going at the maybe highest level because those were the two subsystems that you mentioned. But being able to do that takes you out of a very technical conversation about AI and the benefits and the 15 minutes and the half an hour and the all those technical details about AI and gets you into a different conversation about what is going on specifically in this food and beverage ecosystem that is keeping it stuck? What uniquely are the roles that different parts are taking up that are not allowing it to leverage this new technology? And what is the most powerful intervention I can make at this stage in order to reveal the system to itself? Yeah.
Yes, great question, of course. Yeah, to look at the ecosystem rather than some actors.
Yes, because it is co-created. It is not just the dancers, it is the dance. And often we go and we try and fix the dancers rather than seeing the dance. The dance that this system is in is a collective agreement to not leverage AI. They have agreed, not explicitly, but implicitly, they have an agreement that's going round and round where they are not leveraging AI. And you are an external consultant trying to get them to leverage AI. They have this hidden agreement. It's hidden. Nobody is talking about it or writing it down, but it is a hidden agreement. And therein lies the challenge.
A tough audience.
What I liked is the process that I understood right now. The doctor is getting information from many of us who are participators. He got some information from Colleen. He got some information from me. You intervened at the right time, and others would come in. That's the sort of process that I see that helped you to draw. Of course, you're a genius, but that helped you to draw the pattern. I'm looking at the process of drawing the pattern, right?
Yes.
Unless doctor pays me something, I'm not going to give him the solution. But I'm only looking at how we got this pattern is what I am looking at. That we got intelligence and experience of Colleen. You got something from me. You got something from her. She intervened, and you. With all this question, you activated yourself too without artificial intelligence. You also had your intelligence quotient into that, and fortunately, you have the emotional quotient with us, right? So I see the process of how you do the pattern. So I was looking at how you drew the pattern.
Yes. And what did you notice? You noticed all of those things, data gathering from multiple sources, but not putting on a technical lens, because often we can go down the track with Rashad where we start talking about the technical. Well, tell me about the AI and how many minutes and what would it spit out and what would they be asking it? And, we can get down that very technical track without really understanding the dynamics in the ecosystem and the parts that are playing a role to keep this hidden agreement. There's a perfectly, this ecosystem is perfectly constructed for no change. They are perfectly operating in a way that will ensure they do not change. The executives have tuned out. They're the vague ones. I'm not really sure what AI would add. I haven't really got my head around it. And these 3,000 R&D people are just being allowed to say, no, I'm not going to interact. No, I'd rather talk to a colleague. I've decided I'm not going to use that thing, and no consequences in place. So you've got this perfectly co-created pattern.
Shimon, what I witnessed here is this pattern emerged from the interaction with doctor. Colin giving the input, all of us. So the pattern emerged.
Yes.
And as I see it, because being a Gemba practitioner, one of the things that we are told is never ever go into a Gemba with a preconceived notion. And this is what my sensei is to always tell me, you will always see what you want to see. So we have to go
Yes.
with an empty mind. And it took us 7 years or 10 years to do that. But it
Yes.
emerged. It emerged. But so if I equate this, what happened and the way you drew the pattern, if I had if I had some pattern in my head already, if I was a doctor and I had a pattern already, blah, 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 and then I went and asked these questions, I would probably silence all the other things that did not confirm with the pattern in my head. How do you, am I getting somewhere? I don't know, am I talking sense or not, Siobhan?
Yeah. You have to go in not thinking, oh yeah, I've seen this one before. Every situation is unique. Rashad's situation with the food and beverage company is unique, and we started to emerge. What's going on with these R&D people? What's going on with the executive team? And he told us, he said they are tuned out. They are vague. He told us that the R&D function, the 3,000 of them, they're just sitting there ignoring it. So you have to gather the data from the source, not what you think it might be because you've seen the company down the road have this same problem. It is uniquely the head in the sand pattern that is applied to them. But as you go, I mean, that was very quick. Often when you're diagnosing a system, it takes, the conversation with Rashad should go a lot longer. You would use other diagnostic tools. We would refine this picture more. But I'm giving you, just because we only have a short space of time, just a high level initial view of what I'm hearing and picking up to give you the lens of how this is a different way of solving a problem. We're not going to go down a technical track. We're going to start to intervene here with the resistors, the R&D, and explore why is it that you are resisting? What assumptions are you holding about AI? There could be fear, there could be arrogant, there could be ignorant, there could be just not knowing the benefits. Well, what is the assumptions up here with the executive team? What are they assuming? Oh, well, I'm just assuming I can get by without it. I might be assuming that I don't want to have a fight with the R&D team because they're quite powerful in the system. I might be assuming that all of this, if I keep my head down, is going to go away. And I won't have to worry about it. So there could be a whole lot of assumptions here that we have to further explore. And then often your work is nudging this and helping the system to bust some of the assumptions. You step into role of assumption buster without getting ejected from the system, because if they don't like you, you can very easily experience organ rejection if they don't like saying, and you get spat out of a system. So that is the real art in this work. How do you do this work and shift the pattern without getting ejected from the ecosystem?
Do you at some point of time mirror this to them? That this is what I see?
Sorry?
Once we get some sort of a hold on the pattern that you just, I mean, I know it'll take some more time, but if you get some sort of a foggy idea of this is what I see,
Yes.
do you show it to them at that point of time?
Potentially, but the best way of doing this work is to emerge it with them. Allow them. Like, I didn't just draw it and show it to Rashad. The reason Rashad really resonated with it and said, yeah, because it came from him. So he doesn't feel like I've done this to him. He almost feels like he's drawn the diagram. The most powerful thing would be to get in a room with some of these people and draw it, map it for them by eliciting it from them. Because if you just turn up with your notebook with the pattern drawn and say, this is you guys, they are just going to go, nah, that's not us. You're mad. Let's get rid of him quickly. Let's not pay him anymore because he doesn't really understand us. So this is the tricky thing. If Rashad, my hypothesis, went in and showed them this, they would say, how very dare you? We're not resistors. How very dare you? We're not vague. So you've got to think of ways to intervene that are going to, this is why the third step in the hive mind at work change methodology is nudging. The reason you nudge is if you hit them really hard with something like this, they can hit really hard back again and resist the diagnosis. So the best way of emerging this is to map it with people in the system and pick it up and allow them to see it while you're mapping it.
Okay, and when we transition to the solution paradigm or the solution phase,
Yes.
should the solution also be co-constructed with them?
Yes, potentially. But once you see the pattern, you're almost halfway to the solution because the pattern
Yes.
tells you what the issue is. You've named it now. So the resistors need to move into the role of active users. What's that journey? How are you going to get them? How are you going to do an experiment? The executive need to move from the vague ones to the change leaders. Again, how do you get that happening? Is it going to happen? Who would be able to do that work with you? Because a consultant, it's very hard. You'd need to partner with HR or partner with somebody who's interested in technology. It might be the head of digital, for example, that you could explain this to, and they go, yes, that's so true. Okay, I can work with you and I'll help to move them out of role of vague ones and into role of active leaders of this technology revolution or evolution. So you already you've taken a big step because you understand and see the system. And once you see the role, you can start to reframe the roles and you can start to understand how you might intervene with small steps in order to shift this pattern.
Great.
Helpful? We only have 3 minutes left. Rashad, was that helpful? Is that a useful way of looking at your problem?
Yes, definitely. And now my question is, who should be the facilitator? Like when I invite those senior experts, I let them ask the question because, okay, so should Colleen be considered as senior expert or external facilitator? Dr. M, yourself, how to compose the team that's going to moderate this co-construction and co-description of the problem?
These are really fundamental issues that come back to understanding your role in the system and understanding who the client is. So who is your client? Who has brought you in? And how can you, with them, start to orchestrate this change? And often it's not that clear. Often when you see the system, you think, wow, okay, I've been brought in here, but actually I need to be working up here. So who is your client? Mapping that client ecosystem and how you can intervene is often a key point. And then who else do you bring in order to do this work? That is a really excellent point. But these are all conversations with your client, mapping and showing them potentially, this is what I'm seeing going on here. Are you seeing the same? Okay, how do we intervene? Have we got the right team to do this work? Who else do we need to involve in this work and within the organization or external to the organization? All of those questions start to emerge.
Good. Continuous conversation.
Exactly. Now, I do have to go, Dr. M, because I'm somewhere else at 9:30.
Siobhan, I'm going to stop recording. One thing that she said is check out who sponsored you to this assignment. And that's what I heard her saying. Well, something that I understood from this, let me tell you this, that I understood the process of how you start mapping is getting all the knowledges across, even if you have 5 or 6 of them, get them to that. And once you get the mapping, then you validate that. But then it is not that you show it to them and let them feel that they have mapped it. And that's probably the art.
Yes.
And which will take us, it took her 2 decades, but I'm sure during the sabbatical, now that she's coming to India, she's
It didn't take me 2 decades. It took me, I mean, I'm 2 decades on the journey. It won't take you 2 decades to understand how to map the system and the patterns, but it might take you, you know, a couple of years just to get expert at it.
Doc,
Yeah.
if it takes you lesser time, she's come to France. If it takes me longer time, she's coming to India. Thank you very much, Siobhan, and thank you, all of you all. I'm going to stop recording. That does not stop you all from, I'm sure Siobhan will give us 5 minutes more without getting recorded.
Yes, well, any final comments or questions? Very happy to take those on board.
Go ahead.
No, I'd like to thank you for your
Thank you so
valuable.
much.
Yes.
Thank
And
you,
great
guys.
example, Rashad.
Rashad.
Thank you.
Great
Yeah.
example, and a little bit rushed. And I wish we were all in the room together because we could draw it together and we could really get into it more. But I just wanted to give you something tangible, taking this very complex problem, and we're all going, oh, what's the answer? And maybe we tell them, you know, maybe it's storytelling, or, you know, people immediately go to what the solution is. When you map the situation, then it's like, wow, I really see it. I see this pattern. I see how it's co-created. I see the roles that the different executives in role of vague ones and R&D and role of resistors, and this agreement they have that we don't leverage AI. And once you see that, then the power of that and where you would choose to intervene to shift that is very different. Yeah.
Siobhan,
You can go back to your client with a very powerful lens where they just go, did you hear Rashad when he just went, yes, yes. Immediately, you know you've hit something. It's like, yes, yes. It's just making so much sense to me. Yeah, that's when you know that you've really nailed it. The client is like, yeah, I'm on the journey with you. There's no doubt. I can see it now. And as soon as they can see it, already they've moved, they've shifted. The intervention is different now. He will not look at that system the same way again, Rashad. So yeah, keep taking up your systemic lens, I would say, and keep practicing.
Siobhan, you started this episode by asking me the question of what's the problem. I'll tell you another problem of mine is, as a consultant, I want to show results to the sponsors as soon as possible. And that hurries me up. That hurries me up. And that invariably it short circuits all the channels that I know I have to take, but we short circuit that and think that we can make the journey shorter by skipping steps.
Yes.
And I got into trouble. So
yes.
Thanks a lot, Siobhan, and
thank you, guys. Appreciate you tuning in. Lovely to see you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.